Okay, so let's do a couple more examples where we're using the exponent rules and the fraction rules. So in this problem over here, there are a couple of ways to do it. What I prefer to do is just get rid of all those radicals first, and then just start using the exponent rules right away. So here, the square root is going to be a half exponent. We also have that -2 out in the top. So from there, what we really have is just 3 multiplications, right? It's 3 times a half times -2. Because an exponent raised to an exponent is multiply, an exponent raised to an exponent is multiply. These cancel, so you're just left with p to the -3. So very straightforward, very fast, as long as you remember your exponent rules and you remember your fraction rules. Now, as a side note, this answer is 100% correct, but there are teachers who require you to get rid of negative exponents. So if you have to, don't forget to convert that one as 1 over p to the 3rd. Okay? So it just is dependent on the teacher. My personal preference is the p to the -3rd. I think it's more useful, and the only real time you need to convert into this fraction form is when you actually need to plug in a number. For example, 2 to the -3rd is not very easy to calculate, but 1 over 2 to the 3rd is. So let's go ahead and do this one. We're going to do the same thing. What I would like to do is I convert all the radicals into fractions first. So the first one is x to the half, because it's a square root. The next one is also x to the half, and we can leave the y. The bottom is y to the 4th, because the 4th root is 1 over 4 as an exponent. Now, you can do either the division or the multiplication on the top and the bottom first. It's up to you. I prefer to simplify the top and the bottom as much as possible. So, for example, this top part, the 2 3's give you the 9. This one part right here is the multiplication of -1.5, so -1/2. And then we're going to add a half. So really, that one part, these two x's right here, give you x to the 0. There you go, it's -1/2 plus half is 0. And then we haven't touched the y to the -1/3 yet, so that's still here. The multiplication here, when we multiply fractions, is going to be y to the -7 over 4. And the denominator still has a 3 in it. So this one part is that y to the -7 over 4. So x to the 0 is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So what we get is 3 y to the -1/3 and y to the -7 over 4. So we have division, and division is calculated by taking the top exponent and subtracting it to the bottom. Sorry, taking the top exponent and subtracting the bottom. So we get that. Now, this is a fraction, right? So if we calculated it, what we just do is do it on the side. -1 over 3 minus -7 over 4 is -1 over 3 plus 7 over 4. The LCD here is 12, so I'm missing a 4. And then I'm missing a 3 here. So what you get is -4 over 12 plus 21 over 12, which is 17 over 12. This entire orange part is just that one fraction, right? Because this is this. So we can rewrite this one as 3y to the 17 over 12. Now, this is an example of a problem where you probably don't want to write it out as a radical, right? This looks pretty nasty. if you write it as 3/12 root of y to the 17. So there's actually no real clear way to determine which form is going to be nicer. My personal preference, again, is to always write it as a fractional exponent, but everyone hates fractions. But this one is also fairly ugly, right? The 12th root is not a very nice thing to calculate. So depending on your preference, you can write it either way, they're both correct.